I love Thrasio the way a parent loves a teenager who's just deliberately done the exact opposite of what they told them to do. Love, but kind of exasperated.
The Beast Gear story.
He sold it to Thrasio.
Thrasio has recently declared bankruptcy.
Beast Gear ends up becoming just another line item somebody's working on, and they're not going to do the extra stuff. They're not going to even understand what was missing.
When I sold it, it was doing about $6 million a year. When we got it back, it was probably doing $500,000.
Earnouts are never guaranteed. If you're negotiating a deal, the first amount of money you get has to be enough for you to be comfortable doing the deal. And if you get the extra money, awesome.
There's a lot of buyers out there that actually just, the way they structure deals is knowing that they can get out of the back end of it. It's stupid. It's like the most short-sighted thing I've ever seen.
I spent several years, sadly, watching as it declined. The website was gone, email marketing was gone, they hadn't posted on social media in 5 years, but people were still tagging the brand. There was still a lot of love out there for the brand.
We all know that like a couple of years after 2022, Thrasio has had a lot of trouble. In some crazy turn of events, you end up back with Beast Gear.
I got in touch and I said, look, is there a world in which I can buy this back? And they basically said, no, we're going to turn this around and we're not selling any of our brands. Things continued to decline and I got back in touch. And they agreed that we'd figure something out. They changed my life for the better, and I will always hold up a place for them in my heart. I want them to succeed, and I still think that a form of Thrasio can succeed. Just perhaps not the form they thought.
Welcome to the Operators Podcast. My name is Mike Beckham, and we are proudly brought to you by Fulfil, Aftersell, Richpanel, Northbeam, Saras Analytics, and Postscript. We are a community for entrepreneurs that are building things. And if you want to be a part of this community, you can listen to the podcast, but you can also go sign up for our newsletter. A ton of awesome information in there. We also partner with E-commerce Fuel, a forum for you to connect with other entrepreneurs that are building businesses where we can learn from one another. So, without further ado, on to the pod.
Dealing with big box retailers means EDI connections, and that's often a trigger for needing an ERP system. We've been using EDI connections to Costco forever, and the only way that we've really solved that problem to make it seamless is through Fulfil. EDI adds complexity to everything you do, and Fulfil solves that complexity with their connections to their systems. You need Fulfil to move from being just a D2C brand to being a true multi-channel brand, because big box retailers are going to require you to connect to their systems using EDI. Let me tell you, it's way easier if you do it with Fulfil.
Ben, what do you think about Thrasio, man?
Oh, man.
What are your honest, unabridged thoughts?
You know, I actually have no beef with Thrasio. The way I think about Thrasio is this. I love Thrasio the way a parent loves a teenager who's just gone and deliberately done the exact opposite of what they told them to do. So like love, but kind of exasperated. That's what I think of Thrasio.
You're disappointed, but you're not angry, is what it sounds like.
Exactly. And actually, more than that, right? They changed my life for the better. And I will always hold up a place for them in my heart. And I want them to succeed. And I still think that a form of Thrasio can succeed.
So they changed your life for the better. So Ben, who are you? And what was your life like the day before you met Thrasio? What were you doing?
Wow. Okay. So I met them in September 2019. So I was just busy working away on my e-commerce brand. We were selling in the UK, right across Europe, and a small fraction in Australia and the Middle East, primarily on Amazon with a little bit on our own website. Running day-to-day the business, putting out fires, placing purchase orders, coordinating with my freelancer team members on the other side of the world, changing nappies or diapers, I guess you would say. I think my first child, we now have 3, was a few months old at the time. And so just like running around and, trying to keep my head above water, really. That was it.
So this is September 2019, pre-COVID. E-commerce is not cool. And you deliberately chose not to sell into America. You just wanted to avoid Amazon FBA? It was just too competitive, or?
It's the biggest regret I have, actually. I made a huge mistake. But I've learned a lot from that mistake. So at one point, probably the prior year, I reached a crossroads and I had a choice. Do I want to be first into some other emerging markets, or do I want to go to the States? And I had learned that there were quite a lot of pitfalls, I think, for people from the UK and Europe trying to sell into the US, most of which, as it turns out, was unfounded. It would have been pretty damn straightforward. And I think if I had done that, I would have had a business that was probably pretty easily 5 times bigger for probably only 10% more effort. All the reviews would have ported over from Europe to the US. The competition in the US at that time for my category wasn't significantly better than us. We could have really held our own, and that's a huge mistake of mine. So I should have gone into that big market opportunity, and I didn't.
Look, I think that's a good lesson for everybody. Like if something looks crowded, sometimes it is crowded and you should get out of it, right? Like building LLM models right now feels a little crowded, but other
Yeah.
but other times it's because that's where the money is. What was the product category for that first brand in 2019?
Sure. So the brand was called Beast Gear. It was a brand of strength and conditioning equipment. So we did CrossFit stuff, we did sort of powerlifting stuff, and we also did combat sports stuff, primarily boxing. And I started that because that's what I was into.
Dude, you would have made so much money if you were
Oh, yeah.
selling in America in
And
2020.
during COVID.
Yep. Yeah. So we did well in COVID. Well, actually, COVID hit right after I sold the business. So yeah. So
when did you start it, Ben? What year did you start?
I'll give you the
Beast
I'll give you the background without it being too boring. So like everybody else in Northeast Scotland where I live, I worked in oil and gas. Only I was the token dolphin hugger. My job was to help the oil companies get a bit greener and comply with the regs. I started the business as a hobby that might earn me some extra pocket money. And it grew arms and legs. And before you knew it, I had quit my job to keep growing the business. And so we were selling on our own website, beastgear.co.uk, and on Amazon, and eventually in Amazon right across Europe. But our website only served the UK. Then, and so I founded it in 2016. And I exited Halloween 2019. So it was a fast and wild ride. And then, of course, COVID hit in the spring of 2020. So interesting timing.
Yeah. Okay. So September 2019, you get an email from Thrasio, I assume, or how did they actually end up in your DMs? And what was the offer?
They were introduced to me by a broker, and the offer, I can't talk specifics, of course, of what the deal ended up being, but it was very standard for the time. It was a bit more than the multiples John was talking about on your pod a little while ago, but not the crazy multiples we were getting in 2020, 2021, where people were selling very small and pretty mediocre businesses for like 6x of EBITDA. So it was pretty kind of straight down the middle multiple of EBITDA, and we did the deal pretty quickly. Like I met them in September, we closed Halloween. And,
Wow.
Yeah. And they were moving fast. Everything was done, at pace. It was crazy to think like the numbers that landed in my bank account, at the start of November, and then how life was a few months prior to that.
And no one knew COVID was going around the corner. You had your first kid running around. You're like, okay, this probably took a lot of pressure off. Like you could probably breathe a little bit. And then did you have an active role in that brand after Thrasio bought it, or was it a clean walk away?
So yeah, this is the thing, right? So I sold the business to them, and like so many e-commerce deals, it was, the majority up front and then the rest on an earn-out for a couple of years, or what I kind of call it a pray out, because you're just praying that the guys who buy the business run it well, because you're not earning anything. You've got very little to do with it. That said, I was supporting the brand managers or trying to support them to do a good job. But it was very, very difficult because I became increasingly frustrated that I was swimming against a tide of bureaucracy. And very quickly it became clear to me that all of the things I had done to make the business a success in the first place and make them want to buy it were gradually being eroded by them because it didn't fit with their model. And that's how I saw the red flags that the wheels were kind of starting to fall off.
This was during COVID. So even with all the tailwinds of COVID in a category like fitness, you could still see that like, this is not going to go well.
Well, it's interesting. So COVID hit at the start of 2020. And actually, so for the first year, the business did really well for 2 reasons. One was that all the kind of funnels and flywheels that I had made, all the momentum I had in the business was still working. So I was brand first, right? When I had the idea to start Beast Gear, I didn't know you could sell on Amazon. I thought when you bought on Amazon, you were buying from Jeff. I found out about Amazon FBA in Reddit. And then I was like, oh, this is really cool. Like I can just send my stuff to them and they'll help me deal with all the heavy lifting. So I was brand first. So we were building relationships with customers. We were active on social. We were building email lists. We were driving people to many chat flows and giving them user guides in there. We were getting people into our newsletter. We had a YouTube channel, which was generating millions of views for our customers who wanted our video guides, getting ranked on YouTube, bringing in new customers into Amazon, all this cool stuff. But all my competitors were like listing and turning on PPC and then just praying that it worked. You know, kind of very much just sort of a, I'm going to sell something on Amazon kind of a job. And so the problem was that aggregators were buying what they viewed as just sort of commodity businesses on Amazon. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that thesis on paper. But then when you take somebody who's trying to build what you might call a real brand and then turn off all the clever stuff they did to actually make it a success in the first place, it doesn't work. So in that first year, all the stuff we had was still working. But then come year 2, a couple things happened. Well, we had all the tailwinds in year 1 from COVID, which was especially good for us because most of the strength and conditioning equipment we made, you could use at home. And there was a huge bump of that. But year 2, the wheels really started to fall off because they did a lot of stuff that just meant that it didn't work anymore. So for instance, you buy one of our products on Amazon and immediately in the packaging, you go to a URL to get a user guide or watch a demo video, which is hosted on our website. But they turned off the website. So now the customers disappear into a black hole. Yeah. So now the customers are upset, right? Because they can't get the user guides. So your proportion of negative reviews go up. Plus, you no longer have all the stuff we were doing in ManyChat and DMs on Instagram and whatnot to get good reviews. So your good reviews are going down. So now your product rankings are tanking. Then, of course, they stopped doing all the customer service that we were doing in DMs and in our own emails. And people are sending emails to the email addresses connected to our domain on the packaging, which of course are dead. So they just get like returned emails, right? So all the customers are upset. So the rankings are tanking. I mean, I'm just scratching the surface there, but year 2 did not go well.
You said something super right that the audience needs to take that way is that like earnouts are never guaranteed. Like you should, if you're negotiating a deal, the first amount of money you get has to be enough for you to be comfortable doing the deal. And if you get the extra money, awesome. Like I've heard horror stories, people never getting their earnouts, right? Because of clever accounting or people you over or whatever. When it works, it's awesome. I just got like $75,000 from an agency I sold like 4 years ago, like longer, maybe 6 years ago. So someone just like the earnout just hit. I'm like, oh, awesome. I had nothing to do with that. But that is so rare for that to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so rare. Like so rare.
And Ben, you're totally highlighting entrepreneurs want to win at all costs because if they don't win, they lose. Right? Like if you don't win, you don't make any money, right? But employees at companies don't have that, right? Like B-Skier ends up becoming just another line item somebody's working on, and they're not going to do the extra stuff. They're not going to even understand what was missing, and that must have hurt to watch that flounder. So did you get any part of that earnout?
Yes, I got year 1. Year 2 was on track to be missed. I then produced a detailed presentation, which I recorded as like a 30-minute screen share, detailing my disappointment in the way the business was being, or the brand was being run. And shortly thereafter, without going into specifics, let's just say that the financial situation improved for me. I'll leave it at that. But I know not everybody was so fortunate. Okay. And in fact, I think there were cases, I want to point out not Thrasio, but there were cases where some people sued, I believe successfully, the aggregator who bought their business because they ran it negligently and therefore the seller missed the earnout. And that was pretty big news at the time.
Yeah. I mean, that happens more frequently. Like that's pretty common, right? Is that there are, I mean, there's a lot of buyers out there that actually just, the way they structure deals is knowing that they can get out of the back end of it. It's stupid. It's like the most short-sighted thing I've ever seen. I've seen 2 friends get caught by that, maybe 3, 2 for sure. Makes no damn sense to me why you would buy a business and like deliberately hold it back. Like if it can go, you should let it go. It's like that's free. It's just good money to pay out.
Yeah, it was wild. Here I was trying to teach them for free how to do all the stuff that had made the brand a success, so that they could then cross-pollinate those learnings across like their 200 and something brands. And I expect many other founders who'd sold to them were having the same frustration. But at the same time, you got to remember the scale they were working on. And it's all very well for me to stand here and say, oh, they should have done this and they should have done this. But like, it was insane. They were buying like 2 brands a week at one point or something.
Yeah,
wonky
I know
like
the
that.
numbers he gave us were crazy. You know what it has been? What Sean's hitting on is a lot of the difference between founders and employees. That founders are employees are in competition with each other, and founders are typically just in competition with themselves. So like, there's this weird like, I've got to figure it out, or I'm a total loser energy that a founder has. That's why we figure it out. And then most employees are just worried about the guy next to them or their boss.
And at 4:30 on a Friday afternoon, Dave in supply chain doesn't care about your earnings.
Yeah, he's gone. Yeah. Barbecue time. Longtime sponsor Northbeam is launching incrementality later this quarter. This means that you can now have the trifecta of marketing measurement all in one platform. That is multi-touch attribution, media mix modeling, and incrementality holdouts all inside of Northbeam. You can automate that lift testing end to end, unify results with your MTA and your MMM. This is a lot of letters, but if you know, you know. And you can start to cut what doesn't work, and you can scale what works. And you can do this all with confidence. This is why this is such an incredible add to Northbeam. Northbeam's incrementality measures what results marketing is actually generating, not just what they're claiming credit for. As a CEO, that's like music to my ears. Sign up now and you can lock in 50% off unlimited tests for the year.
We all know that like a couple of years after 2022, Thrasio has had a lot of trouble. In some crazy turn of events, you end up back with Beast Gear.
Yes. Yep. So I spent several years, sadly, watching as it declined. So watching from the outside as the website was gone, email marketing was gone. They hadn't posted on social media in 5 years, but people were still tagging the brand. There was still a lot of love out there for the brand. I would still bump into people and see the products in the wild. They didn't know I was the founder. I was just seeing them out in gyms. It was cool. They killed all influencer marketing. All the links on the packaging that went into a black hole, all gone. But there was still, all that inventory was still out there. Because remember what John was saying a few weeks ago. They ordered so much inventory. So it was all old inventory that was still being sold, right? Over all these years later. Because they'd over leveraged so much back in the early 2020s. And so I watched from the sidelines as it declined, and I'd come to terms with the fact that I'd sold my baby. I made a decision to sell it. I had to accept that the new owners could do what they want with it, and that was it. And I was okay with that, and I was doing cool new stuff in e-commerce. But, of course, we all know that things started to go wrong for Thrasio, and I remember when the first round of layoffs happened. And then not long thereafter, I got in touch, and I said, look, is there a world in which I can buy this back? And they basically said, no, we're going to turn this around and we're not selling any of our brands. Things continued to decline and I got back in touch and they agreed that we'd figure something out. But quickly they said, actually, no, what we want to do is sell this off as part of a group of like 20 brands in a similar category. And I couldn't do that. However, I knew some people who could. And so together with some business partners who are like much more sort of behind the scenes and don't want to be kind of public facing with this kind of stuff, we were able to get the brand. So they acquired a sort of job lot of brands, if you like, from Thrasio, including mine. And as part of the deal, I'm with Beast Gear now, kind of strategically advising on the turnaround. They're looking after the kind of nuts and bolts under the hood. And, we're doing the turnaround in public, kind of as a bit of a fun project.
Okay, so it kind of sounds like it was like a blind box, like a mystery box of a bunch of brands you guys had to buy. Were there other good assets in there, or was it really just take it or leave it? You have to buy all this stuff.
No, there was some okay stuff in there. I would say most of it though is it's just a pile of listings on Amazon, right? And you have to just let it be that, rather than anything that's sort of attempting to build a fan base and a relationship with customers and actually kind of behave more like a real brand.
You sold your brand at like an average EBITDA multiple. Then the multiples went crazy. And then you bought it back. Did the EBITDA multiple go up or down from there? And did the EBITDA of the whole lot go up or down from there? Like, are you more out of pocket? Or were you able to, skim a little off the top and sign up with your asset?
Yeah. So the business now, so the deal to get it back, which I can't talk the exact numbers, but pennies on the dollar, virtually nothing down. It really is predicated on us actually turning it around. So, very low risk. In terms of the state of the business, when I sold it, it was doing about $6 million a year. And when we got it back, it was probably doing $500,000.
Wow.
And I think after the first year, we'll do something like 1.4. So, we're doing all right. It's not easy. So when we got it back, we had to immediately liquidate something like 800 grand's worth of inventory, which, so that goes back to John's point from a few weeks ago, right? They really over-ordered on inventory. And it wasn't just over-ordering. I remember John talking about how, you'd have like 2 umbrellas, one black, one pink, and the black was like 90% of sales or something. And so they ordered the same amount of both.
Oh my gosh.
That kind of problem, not just on inventory, but it was systemic across the whole thing. It's just a complete lack of joined up thinking, going back to what I said about killing the website. In their head, they were probably like, well, the website is a minority of the sales, so we'll just turn it off. But there was no thinking about the second order consequences.
Right.
And so that contributed to tanking the Amazon sales, because now your engine that drove the business in the first place, which was building a relationship with customers, driving people to Amazon from social, from YouTube, from your email marketing, from influencers, all gone. And when you do that, you're just reduced to another listing on Amazon.
Sean here to tell you about Saras Analytics and Saras Pulse. Ridge is profitable every single day, and we've taken that super seriously since we built this business. We track contribution margin by day. We look at the SKUs we sell every single day, and we have to do this manually up until Saras Analytics came out. We take all of our SKU level data, we build it into the data warehouse. Everything that goes into making a true P&L, I get on a day-to-day basis. Saras Pulse gives you clarity, so your COO and your CFO and your CMO start speaking the same language. Contribution margin shifts teams away from hoping profits survive the season to manage them in real time. Book a walkthrough with the Saras Pulse team today. Click the link in the description, and thank you, Saras, for bringing you this show. We're going to talk turnarounds, but before we do that, I have one question with the whole Thrasio thing. So you know it better than probably anybody, and you're an unbiased observer in this. You sold a brand and you bought a brand back. We had John on, and John told the story of they tried really hard. It was a difficult market. They got caught up in, a bubble, like a hype cycle, like everybody else. They used too much debt, and then a little bit of incompetence sprinkled in. Some other people commented on that, saying, "No, this guy's a fraud." We're between fraud and just an incompetent, honest, effort. Where do you think that business lands?
Look, so a bunch of guys in September 2018 went into Dunkin' Donuts with a pretty cool idea. And that idea turned into Thrasio. And they're pioneers. They tried to take the roll-up model and make it work. But they missed quite a few things. They assumed that the complexity to run 200 brands would be maybe 10x what it is to run 20 brands. But it's not. It's like 1,000x. The complexity scales exponentially the more brands you have. And there was a couple other mistakes they made, because they assumed that the roll-up model would work. And it does on paper, but here's the thing. Roll-ups are all about benefiting from the economies of scale and consolidating things like manufacturing and logistics and so on and so forth. The problem you've got is a lot of that has already been done with a business that's an Amazon FBA business. So there's not really any more low-hanging economies of scaleness to get, because it's already been done. And then, of course, you've got the fact that all these different brands really need to be run as disparate things. So the idea was good. It didn't quite work on paper. I think it still can work if they only have maybe a core of like 20 or 50 brands or something. But one thing I've seen on the back of this, if Thrasio and a few others like them were like the canary that went down the coal mine, there are aggregators now. They hate being called aggregators, but they're doing a much better job, because instead of going wide, they're going deep. And they're focusing on a category, for instance. And instead of being a bunch of financial guys who raised money to buy e-commerce brands, they're e-commerce guys who raised money to buy e-commerce brands. And they've watched the canary go down the coal mine. They've learned the lessons, and they're cutting their cloth accordingly, and they're acting way more responsibly. They're not frauds. They just got caught up in the speed and the scale of the thing. They probably believed a bit of their own hype. And of course, at the time, it's not easy. Like, COVID's there. They don't want to run out of stock. Most people believed that the bump that we saw in e-commerce at that time was like the new baseline or close to it. And they can be forgiven for like trying to strategize in real time without all the information. So frauds, no. I mean, they seriously messed up. At one point they brought in a CFO, I forget who, from an enormous retailer. This is all public domain because it's all come out in the bankruptcy stuff. Who took a look at the books and 3 months later left. And so at that point, things are terribly wrong. There was a lack of talent as well. Like at the brand level, when the people managing these accounts, like they were unable to hire the people who actually were good at this stuff, because the people who were good at this stuff wanted to actually run their own one and then sell it.
Yep.
Classic problem. I think you summed it up. I think perfectly well. But let's talk turnaround. So you were actively doing a brand in turnaround. It did not go bankrupt. So you bought it. You had to buy it with all the warts on it. There's no cleanse as you get through a bankruptcy. So you're doing this turnaround in public. How can we help you? What questions do you have? What advice do you need?
Yeah, well, so you've got a business that is way over leveraged on inventory still. Cash flow is pretty tight compared to where it was back then. And that's kind of symptomatic of, I think, any business that's, because the majority of our revenue is still on Amazon, teeny tiny fraction. So here's what we've done, right? We've turned our website back on. We're trying to rebuild our email marketing machine. We've restarted on social, restarted building relationships with our customers. We're trying to fix our Amazon listings. Many of them are still terrible for some really boring technical reasons to do with Amazon, but we're working on that. So you've got a business, cash flow's tight. You're actually probably barely profitable yet, even now. It's kind of like, what are the things you focus on?
Yeah. So is there any debt on the business, or is the inventory owned clean?
The inventory, no, there is debt. There is debt. That's
Okay.
that's like basically being paid off on consignment.
Because the inventory is either, an asset or a liability, just depending on how much debt's tied to it. Because Bscare sounds like an awesome brand for TikTok Shop, right? We all know a bunch of brands on TikTok Shop. Go ahead.
No, we're literally getting onto TikTok now.
It's going to be a difficult road. I'm gonna pull up the listings and let's just look at them, because on Amazon.
Sure, yeah, and some of them are embarrassingly bad. And while you're pulling them up, I'll tell you why. Because we've had a technical issue whereby, so we have all the brand registry, we own all the IP, it's ours. And in fact, the Amazon account that we're selling through in the UK is the account I opened in February 2016. It's that original account. However, when Thrasio tried to launch the brand in the States, which didn't go well, the accounts that they used to sell through retained all the editing rights. And even now, we're only just getting Amazon to help us fix some of these issues. Some have been fixed. Some listings we've been able to update. Many we have not. And I can actually show you some of the really embarrassing stuff. You'll have to look on Amazon UK, Sean, if you're bringing it up.
Ben, how much of have you thought about like competition today versus back when you were running it?
Oh,
and how much that's changed? And is that a factor in how difficult this is going to be?
Yes. But here's the thing. Not only is it more competitive, it's frustrating because had things not gone so as they have gone for the last, several years, 5 years or whatever it was, 6 years, we'd be in a better position to deal with that competition. Let me explain. Back then, if you didn't know Bscare, but you were looking for a weightlifting belt, you'd go on Amazon, you search for weightlifting belt, and ours would be right up there in the top on page 1. And you were very likely to click on ours because it looked more badass than everybody else's. Coolest name, coolest logo, great main image. You click on the listing and you're highly likely to buy because our listing was better than everybody else's at the time. So huge conversion rate. Then your experience with the product was excellent because for most people selling on Amazon who'd just done some course, it was buy something cheap and not very good, put it in a poly bag, stick a barcode label on it, done. But remember, I came at this as a brand first. I wanted to sell into gyms. So you'd buy my weightlifting belt, quality product, streets ahead of the competition, great experience, arrives in a really nice carry case with a card inside telling you where to get help, how to contact us. Nothing against terms of service, nothing about reviews. And for that reason, we would then get tons and tons of reviews. We were way better ranked, all that stuff. But now many of our products with much poorer review ratings, terrible listings, and with all that competition, it's way harder to recover.
Yeah. And it seems like there's still like, without getting too technical for the audience going through, did you retain the rights to sell in the US? Because it seems like the US is still being sold by some sort of Thrasio partner brand.
Yes, you're right, it is. So it was agreed that inventory that was still in the US would stay with them and they just sell it off. So effectively, they're kind of like a reseller in the US. Would we go back to the US? Sure. We'd need some capital to do that. it's not out of the question. I think the plan at the moment is to, think of it as like a military retreat, get ourselves together, conquer UK and Europe again, and then probably go to the States if we can.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's right, because the core listings on Amazon.com for the US look fire. for like
okay, maybe some of them are pulling through. It depends what you're looking at, but yeah, okay, great. I mean, and that's part one of the reasons I believed in getting it back was that we still have all those things that I said are still true. Badass name, badass logo, great products, and a lot of brand equity. People still tagging the brand all the time on Instagram, even after all those years. And of course, now TikTok exists, and that is a big opportunity.
Why no D2C meta machine? Like, why not? What's the restriction there? Is it margin, AOV? Like, what?
AOV.
What's the thesis?
AOV is hard. AOV was difficult. So back then, AOV on our website was probably like £50. And now it's going to be lower. There has been in the intervening time a lot of competitors come into the market. And for the reasons I said before, it's harder now for us, considering what's happened, to be positioned quite as premium as we used to be. Plus on Amazon, because we had to liquidate a bunch of inventory, almost all of our listings have resellers selling the stuff we had to liquidate. And so now there's kind of a problem with price point there too. Not to say I don't think meta ads can work, but we're not running them right now. Open to it, but
well, especially UK EU, like it's just your CPMs are so much lower. Like even in Canada, Ben, my cost per acquisition on Pillowcase is like 60% lower than it is in the US.
Wow.
Like it's just dramatically lower. The American market's highly competitive, especially with meta.
Yeah, but there's a reason I would say the competition. I think if I had
there's a good reason for it.
Yeah, if I had an 18-month plan for Beast Gear, because you have a couple of US listings that have 4.6 stars, like it's like the barbell grips like seem to be ripping, like top of page rankings, that type of stuff. And then it seems like on the UK website you have some really awesome lifting belts that have a pretty good price point. I think what it comes down to is as quickly as possible getting to global uniform, because I think you have excess inventory. We're going to liquidate that on TikTok shops. So you're going to have really screaming offers on TikTok shops, and you're going to do a ton of gifting and a ton of affiliate, and you're going to run TikTok shop at break even or possibly losing money, right? Because the top of funnel you're going to get is going to spill over to all of your Amazon stores and your .com. Frost Buddy just posted that they did $3 million in TikTok shops this month. So, and what we know is that he said this publicly, that they have a 8-figure month. So if they're doing 3 million on TikTok shops, that means they're getting 2 to 1 or 3 to 1 exposure on other channels, right? That's just the way that this is going to work, is that let's just get as much inventory moving through TikTok shops as possible and try to rank highly, choose one product with one offer that you have a ton of, gift that like crazy, and try to get that ranking, and you will see pickup everywhere else, right?
The halo effect of TikTok is, I see it all the time. And literally now we are onboarding and we've picked a product. It's actually a set of weightlifting straps, so pretty cheap. Your quality product, but it's not a high price point, which should therefore make it a bit of a kind of a no-brainer. Yep, that looks good, I'll buy it, kind of thing. And that's what we're planning to do.
Every SaaS company says they are AI powered, but very few can explain what it actually does for the revenue of my brand. This is why Postscript's approach stood out to us. They don't just build AI for demos or buzzwords, they built it to drive real incremental revenue. Postscript's AI, called Shopper, it shows up inside of SMS at moments with real buyer intent when shoppers are likely asking questions, hesitating, maybe even about to drop off. Shopper can answer product questions instantly, answer questions about fit, availability, recommendations, order issues, the kinds of stuff that people usually bounce for. This means more conversions, higher AOV, less lost demand, so you are driving more revenue and doing it more efficiently. Check out Shopper from Postscript. We use it at Pilo, which is why I am telling you to check it out.
Yeah, and fitness is so good, right? You can look at Gymshark or I'm Friends with Rock from Gym Reapers, like, because those videos already go viral. You get people who just like are hot, basically. Like that's how Gymshark did it, right? You get people who are just fucking jacked. They're watching videos anyway, and then it's a whole culture built into it. So So that is like, how do we get out of this hole as quickly as possible? Is like, we're going to go all in on that channel and make that work. You're going to make a ton of TikToks because I think you telling the brand story, even like, hey, I sold this, they fucked it up, I bought it back, we're making it good again. That's an amazing story. There's free impressions there, and you just drive that TikTok shop volume. And then we have to sell out of all the US inventory because you want to retake those listings, right? What are your thoughts on that, Ben?
Yeah, it's funny you should say that, the founder content thing. That's something I actually did a bit of the first time around. So I noticed in our DMs and our messages, we were getting these messages, and people clearly kind of thought that we were some sort of faceless corporate entity, and I didn't like that. So I started doing videos and putting them on Facebook, and that did really well at the time. And every email that we wrote was signed off by me. All the kind of DMs, everything signed off by me. It was my team doing it. And that worked really well. And you used to go to the Amazon reviews and search my name, and they would be in there. Even now, if you go back, you find the old reviews, my name's in there. So founder-led content could work really well. And I think that the whole story, the romantic notion of selling it to the man and then it doesn't go well and then getting it back could perform really well. So yeah, okay. Yeah.
Also,
No,
I think
it
that-
100% will. There's huge overlap with founder content and like people who are in the gym. It's a massive audience. Like that's absolutely just your demo. You should be doing that.
Also, you have more time
Yeah.
than money. So I know you got 3 kids running around, but you have more time than money. So you can film a TikTok in 5 minutes, just telling your story, what you working on, you showing off the product, and it really just takes 50 videos a week, and you will get a million video view. Like they randomly pop off like that.
Yeah.
I play tennis with Steven from Cuts, and Cuts was talking about their gifting strategy is they gifted 400 shirts to people, and he's like, yeah. 399 videos did nothing. One video drove 12 million views. And it was just randomly. This person just posts 200 videos a week or whatever, and one of them got this crazy spike, and they saw 6 figures in sales off that video. So like, it's real, it can really happen, and it's just shots on goal. And I think you have a great product to do that. And I want to go back to, you want to just get this sell through because it's going to be way easier to grow your brand when you're just uniformly growing everything. You said your biggest mistake was not going to the US. Well, you have US listings, you have US presence. We have to get that uniformed across the board, right? Like you have to take over your US Amazon presence, because I sell in the UK. The UK is a great market. The US it's probably 20x as big, even though the population's only, I don't know, like 7x as big. It's just there's so much more disposable income in the US.
yeah.
We have to get over there.
Yeah, if we can get some inventory over there, okay. All right, yeah, noted. All right, we'll make that a priority if we can.
Especially just because if we're talking TikTok shops going to be the future, and really like, short form content's in the future, it's going to be wasted if people can't buy it. And that's going to be bad, right? Like I would even look at taking your inventory you currently have and seeding TikTok shop fulfillment in the US, if that makes sense. Like they have a fulfillment network just like Amazon. Let's make it so people in the US can buy it. I know it's like maybe it's too big of a pill to swallow right now, but like that is, how do we get the flywheel started back again? You were really ahead of the curve in 2019, right? Doing the YouTube video content, doing all that type of stuff. You had the right playbook. Now we just have to do that playbook for 2026 and get this going.
Yeah. No, okay, we're going to double down on TikTok then. As soon as we can afford to do the US, we will. But yeah, okay, right. We're gonna double down on TikTok, get back to the founder-facing content, which doesn't need to be slick. I can just pick up my phone and start talking to it.
It shouldn't be slick. It's better if it's just you literally living life in the moment.
Yeah, that's what we'll do. Fingers crossed we can turn it around. I mean, we're doing all right. We've more than doubled it since we got it, but there's work to do.
You will turn it around. That's the thing. It's like there's like a very famous chart that Build-A-Bear outperformed Nvidia this year, right? Or the past 5 years or whatever. And it's because Build-A-Bear was worth at one point $25 million, and now it's worth $1 billion. And it's like, everyone's like, wow, this stock really outperformed. And it's because they did the world's hardest job, which is showing up every day, fighting back bankruptcy, doing things that like very few people actually cut out to do. Most people are better off just working, they just want a job, and if the company does well, they can just benefit from that, right? They just want a seat on the rocket ship. But like, you can make so much money in turnaround because it's so difficult, and you're showing up every day, and you're like trying to not pay vendors. Like
the difficulty in a way is a moat. It's a barrier to entry.
Totally.
In a way. So yeah. And I welcome the difficulty. It's fun.
Well, yeah, that's the classic fun boxing guy in you, dude. Like you're setting out to get punched in the face.
So Ben, let's talk about this new brand then. So you've got a new.
Sure.
So you're doing a turnaround.
Yeah.
And you want to launch something new. Tell us about that.
Sure. So the new thing is a project I've been working on for quite a while. Like so many projects, it's come out of personal experience. So I have 3 kids, and I never got on well at all with the baby carrier that we used for our first child, and then
I feel that.
subsequent children as well. It wasn't comfortable. I tried several. I settled on one eventually that was like the least bad. I felt it was uncomfortable. I got backache. I got sore shoulders, and it didn't look like something I wanted to buy. It looked like I'd borrowed it from my wife. And then when I would give it back to her, she'd get annoyed that I had changed all the lengths of the straps and whatnot. So I decided to start developing one for dads. And in the process of doing that, I discovered that despite the fact that all the baby carrier brands feature mums and dads in their marketing, the product is inevitably designed for the biggest market, which is mums. And they have a different body shape than us, right? We're on average, the average guy is 5'10". The average woman is 5'2". They have hips and boobs and we don't. So different body shape, different tastes. And the funny thing is that if you go into like a hiking store, you can buy one of those backpacks that you put on your back and your toddler sits in. And that looks like an outdoorsy, ruggedy kind of product. But there is not, other than 2 that I'm aware of, and they're in the States, not over here, a baby carrier that would sit on the shelf next to it in that outdoor store. And so I went to a couple outdoor stores here and I said, the same customer who buys that toddler carrier, is there any reason they wouldn't want a baby carrier when the kid was a bit younger? And they said, no. And I said, well, if I make one, will you stock it? And they said, yeah. So I am. So I've been working for a few years now to develop it. We've gone through like 10 prototypes, which takes longer than you think, especially when COVID happens. And we are closing around now of £350,000, which is nearly $500,000, I think, of investor money, so that we can go blow this thing up to, pretty damn big. We've got ambitions to be, well on our way to 9 figures, but at least, 50 million.
You think market's big enough for that? That would be my first question.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
So there's the TAM is huge. I haven't got the numbers in front of me. I should have pulled up my deck, but it's something like 30 billion, enormous market, underserved for dads, of course.
Yeah,
right?
I would agree. Yeah, totally.
And,
I had to use my wife's. Your pain is
we're
like,
literally
I understand
talking
it.
about like 50% of parents.
Yeah.
Plus growing markets. There are more dad and dad couples now. So we've got that as well. There's so many angles here. There are a couple of brands that exist in the States, one of which is all right, and one of which the product is not great at all, but they kind of are proving the demand. So we're very, very confident that this will do very well. In fact, let me pull up, because I think I just completely butchered the numbers there. You're not on Operator's podcast every day, so if you're going to do it, you better do it right.
Yeah. So Ben, what do you need the most help with right now for this?
Okay, I guess
project?
It's like you've just raised $500,000. You want to go deploy that effectively so that you don't run out of cash. We know we're going to raise again, like 18 or 19 months in. We think we'll raise another £750,000. What are your priorities? Oh, and I can tell you now the correct numbers. So the TAM we're looking at, the global baby carrier market size is $29.5 billion.
Okay.
And the total serviceable addressable market for what we're looking at is about 18 billion. So huge market, and we only need a tiny slice.
Yeah, I have a kid on the way, so I'm currently experiencing the whole shopping.
Oh, dude, I'll send you a carrier. And congratulations, by the way.
Yeah, and if I'm gonna be an investor, I gotta check out the product. Here's my feedback on bags. Like, bags are such a market. So as someone who's sold a bunch of bags, the thing I'd be most worried about is just the margins and like the compression on margins. Now this is like, outdoor bags. I haven't looked at the baby market in particular. People will spend way more money on kids. So that's true, right? Like it's almost an unlimited amount of money people will spend on their kids, especially for the best product. So I would urge you to go as high end as possible. It's like, how can we be pricing this thing in the 200s, right? Because I've said this, if you ever buy a bag, you're getting a good deal. Zippers are so fucking expensive and you have to ship these things around. It's a bad market. And then I would be thinking, what is the next thing I can sell these people as quickly as possible, right? So like baby carrier to blank. And what is that blank, right? Like what is the connected line? There's a brand in America, I think it's called Tactical Baby Gear.
Tactical Baby Gear, yeah. I know them, yeah.
And it's like, their whole thing is like baby gear for like the MAGA dad, basically. It's like for the military dad. And I would just look at like whatever their best sellers are, and then I would just try to go the most premium version of that possible.
If you're scaling an e-commerce brand today, ads alone aren't enough. Aftersell focuses on the one moment that every brand already owns, after checkout, and turns the post-purchase moment into more profit. Monetize every order with post-purchase offers and thank you page experiences without disrupting checkout or hurting conversion. Enterprise-grade tech used by Gap, Ticketmaster, Macy's, and Target, now driving results for brands like True Classic, Hexclad, Ridge, and Jones Road. I would know. This is the reason I ended up buying 3 pans from Hexclad instead of 2. Aftersell has already generated over $1 billion in additional revenue for e-commerce brands, revenue that doesn't require more traffic or higher CAC. So check out Aftersell and tell them that the operator sent you.
Sean, do you think the bag?
No, it's not a bag. I wish I had one in my office here. Actually, it's over in my house. I was using it earlier. It's a carrier. It's like a baby carrier. So Ergo Baby and Baby Bjorn.
Yeah.
Baby carrier. Predominantly, you have the baby on your front, but you can wear it on your back. For a baby aged between sort of probably 6 and 36 months, and then after that, once they're bigger, they'd go in more like a toddler carrier, kind of like the thing made by say Osprey or Arc'teryx that you'd have on your back. Ours is for the younger kids, so it's for the baby. And what's different about ours is a couple things. One is aesthetics, so it's more of a rugged, outdoorsy type product. Doesn't mean you can't just use it when you're walking down to the shops, of course. And the other is it's designed for the male frame. And then finally, ergonomics and comfort. So we have a patent pending on the hip belt to actually properly support your lumbar spine. And the shoulder straps are way more comfortable around your shoulder blades. So most baby carriers, not all, but most, the hip belt is just a dangly accessory that doesn't do anything. It doesn't actually transfer the weight into your pelvis. Just like a big hiking backpack, you shouldn't have the strain on your back. It should be going through your hips.
Right.
And so that's what we've done. So very bullish on it, but we need to deploy that capital in the right way. And we have a plan, as you might imagine, but I want to hear what the operator think.
Yeah. So, we're launching inside of Rich, we're launching a new brand, right? It might be out by the time this episode comes out. And it's like, we need to lean into our strengths, right? So what are our strengths? We're really good at paid digital marketing, right? We have a warehouse set up and we have a really good influencer network. So it's like, those are our X factors of why we think this is going to work. And with you, it's like, let's get this thing on Amazon as soon as possible, right? It's like, that is really your strength, I think, is the brand building, the storytelling. And then, if you get really good at organic content for Beast Gear, that's going to sell all of these as well, right? And, looking at demographics of who is having kids, right? Dads are becoming way more involved. I think you're totally right about that. But also, it's just wealthy people are having kids. So it's like, I would think of a price where you would almost be bashful saying it. It's like, how do we sell this thing for $399? It's like, that's where I would be going for it. It's like, how do we make this thing the best thing absolutely possible? Because the higher the MSRP, the more margin you have to work with to do things like affiliate gifting or to do things like running a TikTok shop sale, right? Or building Amazon reviews. So I know that's crazy advice, but understanding where the market is going is
I don't disagree. I think Ben, to me, your customer is like Arc'teryx dad.
Oh yeah.
Right.
It's I don't know if you're familiar with this phrase. I only came across it 6 months ago. Gorpcore.
Yeah.
It's Gorpcore guys, basically.
Totally.
And
Dude,
their wives
I'm
and their moms and their
that guy.
sisters who buy it for them.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to get buy-in if something is seen as a status symbol, right? It's like if we could be selling these things for $400. Now your TAM's going to be smaller, but you can always prove the model out and then go down market. It's way
Yeah,
harder.
initially. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
other thing is this is also going to sound like weird counterfactual advice, but dude, Kickstarter is actually still good. So look at Peak Design. So Peak Design is an outdoor brand. They just did a carry-on luggage. They raised $12 million on Kickstarter, right? That Kickstarter actually sucked. They actually did a really bad job with it and delivering it, but they still raised 12 million bucks. So if you can tell that storytelling aspect on the TikTok shops, I wouldn't be afraid to do a Kickstarter, even just as a marketing thing after you're already live, after you have samples, just to ship it to people.
Yeah. We actually thought about doing a Kickstarter. I think we even paid a deposit to a Kickstarter launch service to help us before we came to the conclusion that we should just go raise investor money. But then once we realized we were going to close this round, we thought, okay, but Kickstarter is still potentially a ton of eyeballs. So
You
now
can
that
do
we
both.
yeah, exactly. Now we
Yeah.
have the safety net, we have the investor money. Now I feel more confident to go do a Kickstarter. I don't know that I'd throw tons and tons of money at driving traffic to it. But I guess we'd just see how it performs and then make
I mean,
the call.
Ben, we did when we launched Lomi, like we're a venture-backed company, and we still did a crowdfund, and I think it's public. We put maybe $300,000 into lead gen ahead of the launch of the crowdfund. But we did like $7.5 million in 45 days
Well,
in pre-sale.
that's a good ROI.
And yeah, I think in total ad spend was like maybe 700 grand, like even during campaign. So like
Yeah.
really good way to, but it powered the brand out for like 2 years.
Wow.
Like it was such good launch marketing. And that's why we did it. We didn't do it to raise more money for the product. We had investors. We did it as like, we just knew our customer was going to eat this up.
Yeah. Also, it's just giving the future is just more service area. So it's like, you're going to launch the product anyway. We're going to price it at $399, right? But then the Kickstarter will be like, hey, if you guys will wait 12 weeks, you can get it for, $199 or $299 or whatever, right? And change these numbers to whatever MSRPs you end up landing on, but just always go higher. Let's try to have 85% margins on this product. Like that's the real goal of this product. And then on TikTok Shop, do the same thing. Be like, hey, look, you can buy it on our website right now for $399, or TikTok Shop it's $199, or you can back our Kickstarter. And then everything we said about Beast Gear applies to this, man. I want you to be global at launch because I love the UK. You're gonna get way more bang for your buck in the US, right? You want to build those Amazon listings in the US. If there's any sort of wholesalers, they're going to be more powerful in the US. So you want to be global at launch for this thing. And you want to do the short form content. You want to do the founder story. I want to see back-to-back Ben videos on my TikTok feed.
I want to be global at launch too, but if we're going to do that, we need more money. So we were going to launch concurrently in the US and the UK. Tariffs have kind of messed us around a bit because there's a tariff and an import duty between the country we're manufacturing in Southeast Asia and the US. And there's not between, I could just say Vietnam actually, Vietnam. And there's not between the UK and Vietnam. There's a free trade agreement, so there's no duty, no tariff.
Okay, so it's the
The
same
money
thing.
we have, I think, will power us in the UK to start. The plans to enter the US later, but I think if we want to do both, we just need more money.
Or you do the US as pre-orders. There's also a free trade agreement between Vietnam and Canada. So you can ship them to Canada, you can sell them to Canada, duty and tax free, and then you could also import them from Canada to the US. So you can hold it in Canada, and then if you have a US sale, you can ship it to them.
Yeah, but you're still going to pay the tariffs, right? Sean?
Yeah.
Like it's still not a USMCA good.
Yeah. But at least your
pre-orders for the States is an interesting idea. That could be the Kickstarter.
Well, yeah, if you do a crowdfund, you're going to have to take the States.
Yeah.
Don't do that just in the UK. I'm actually a fan of just doing the UK.
I mean,
like
maybe
it.
doing the UK is like the helps make it's like as seen, like, huge success in the UK, kind of thing. I don't know. Maybe that would help with the Kickstarter angle.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody, maybe.
And
I don't
also-
think the Americans
maybe
give a
nobody
shit.
cares.
But it also proves that it's a real business if you're selling in the UK. So what I would look at is launching in the UK. I would also launch in Canada with the same inventory pool and just charge a bunch for shipping or whatever. And then pre-order in the US, do a whole bunch of TikToks about what's going on. And I think, I think if you nail this, it's $5 million the first year, which I think is good. I think you should.
Yeah, that would be very good.
Yeah. And the other thing is, for any new business that people want to launch, it's like, only ever target $5 million your first year. If you ever try to do more than that, it's always a mistake. Like, something ends up breaking. There's breakout success stories like Comfort or whatever that can do more, but let's just try to do $5 million the first year. That's a great year. And then, so I would also look into like the whole Canada angle, because if you're making it in Vietnam, you can also get it to Canada, duty and tax free. What's up, operators? Welcome to the Richpanel ad read. Richpanel has been a sponsor for over 12 months. I've been a paying customer for over 12 months. And guess what? I just renewed to pay again for another year. We have cut our SaaS bill in half, and automation dropped our cost per ticket by 70%. Our CSAT has also improved from 88%, which is still really good, to 96%, best in class, all powered by Richpanel. I told them last year, hey, you guys need to do the same thing with returns. And now Richpanel has a returns portal. It's built to cut down your tickets and convert more refunds into exchanges. They do the heavy lifting, data import, self-service, retention flows, team training, all of it, and it'll be live in 2 weeks. If you want to save 30% guaranteed on help desk and now returns, book a demo.
That's really, really interesting. Yeah, well, wow. Appreciate your insights, guys. Like, mega valuable. Excited to hopefully crush it and tell you how it goes.
Yeah, dude, and send me the deck. I'm always down to back a multi-time founder. Like, I think you have a great story. So you built a brand out of a true passion. You sold it. You got some money. You watched them f it up, and you found some guys to buy it back. Now you're the very difficult part of they f it up. There's a reason why you got it back for cheaper. Now you have to actually go in there and turn it around. I think we give you some really good tips and advice on there. You're going to focus on cleaning up your channel mix right now. I really want you to be in control of all of your markets. So if it's Canada, if it's the UK, if it's the US, you just want control of those listings, just because they could be fucking up the US one right now too, right? And you're going to put a lot of effort in to move those units. I think TikTok Shop is your best friend right now. And also just short form video, right? Like, there's free impressions every single day. And if you're at 1.4 now, I always tell people short form video can get you to 3 million just by itself, or you could double your business again just by getting really good at short form video. And you got the story for it. Just every day you just talk about it. Me posted on Twitter has sold $2 million in Ridge wallets. And I'm just post whatever I think. So I think you'll sell a ton of shit doing that. And then that'll be a slow grind, but there's no reason why next year you guys couldn't be doing $5 million. I won't talk about Jim Reaper's numbers, but they're doing 8 figures, just ripping it. And it's a very similar category. People are buying workout belts. The next thing is your new brand. I think you can raise the money, and I think it's a unique angle. I want to see it. I'm very hesitant about bags, and I want to see you at a very, very high margin product. The problem with bags, and I'll talk about luggage, Samsonite has a product margin of like 35%. they make like no fucking money.
Yeah.
And it's a hard business. So let's just make sure.
So it's not, the good news is it's not a bag. But it is adjacent to bags. But yeah, okay. Tons of gold in there, man. I really, really appreciate it. And yeah, I'll send you the deck. And of course, when baby comes along, I'll send you a baby carrier.
Cool, man. And for all of the operator listeners, 20,000 brands are going to listen to this. If you liked Ben's story, if you want to talk to Ben, if you have similar shit to talk about, Ben, what's your email or the best way to contact you?
Ben at Ben Leonard, which is LEONARD.pro, PRO. And if you want to see the turnaround in public, it's on YouTube, or you just go to brandrescuemission.com. The first episode is there.
That's awesome.
Throw in your email address, you'll get the other episodes. I've done 6. I think they're good. The first, I think episode 3 is the one where we really go to town on like what went wrong. But I would encourage people to watch from the start. Yeah, I'm super like active on social, mostly LinkedIn. And I just like to meet cool people doing cool stuff. So if anyone wants to like reach out for any reason, give me a shout.
Hell yeah!
I just subscribed. I want to see this.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. I'll try not to mess it up then. The operators are watching.
All right, dude. We'll have all those links in the description. Finn guarantees that. And Ben, we appreciate you coming on and telling your story.
That was fun,
Thanks
Ben.
for having
appreciate
me.
the time, man.
Really appreciate it. Cheers, dude.